Everybody, welcome to a Thursday morning Mike Talk. Solidly working on a sermon as I'm on the road. We hit the road the other day and we stopped in Indianapolis to see my mom. God bless you, Mom. With all this whirlwind and stuff that's going on in our lives, I just want to make sure that she knows that her son's okay. And I'm okay because she's praying for us and she loves us and God's doing a good work in us. Hey, listen, continue to listen to the daily Mike Talks. Thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in. God is doing a great work in this song and sword venture that we have going. And I'm excited to tell you that we were going to do a sunrise gathering just with our family at the synagogue on Easter Sunday at 6:30. And now that's turned into two sunrise family gatherings, 6:30 and 7:30, and they're full. So stay tuned. You will see if we get the family together again soon, all right? But thank you guys for filling those up, and we're looking forward to celebrating with you on Easter Sunday. Keep going to our website, songandsword.com, for more updates and all information you need. Love you guys and praying for you today. I want to go to a familiar story. Maybe it's familiar to you. I've turned to this story many times in Nehemiah chapter 6. Remember Nehemiah, he comes about 60 years or so, 50 or 60 years after the first exiles had returned to Jerusalem from Babylonian captivity. And they rebuilt the temple under Zerubbabel. But then it got back to Nehemiah, as my tour guide Gotti would say. And Nehemiah was serving in Susa, which is the new capital. And he got some brothers of his came back and said, the walls in Jerusalem are in disrepair. And so he prayed and he cried and he fasted before God. And God said, okay, Nehemiah, I want you to go rebuild the wall. That was his task. Now, you know what happens as soon as he gets there, people who are comfortable with their life, in fact, these three enemies of him, Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem, are kind of these regional governors, and they don't want Jerusalem to be rebuilt. They don't want the Jewish people to prosper. And so anything that's going to aid that, they don't like. Nehemiah has come with the king's authority and with the king's funds to rebuild the wall in God's name, to restore the city of God's people. So this is the work that he's doing, and all along the way, there were kinds of distractions and everything. And here's the question I want to ask you today. Are you doing a good work for God, or are you distracting somebody from doing a good work, or are you distracted from doing a good work? Here's the word from Nehemiah chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. Now when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem the Arab and the rest of the enemies heard that I had built the wall and that there was no breach left in it, although up to that time I had not set up the doors and the gates, Sanballat and Geshem sent to me, saying, come, let us meet together at Hakephirim in the plain of Ono. But they intended to do me harm, and I sent messengers to them, saying, I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you? You see how this works here? The enemies of Nehemiah and the people of God were trying to distract him. They actually were trying to distract him and call him away so that they could probably do him harm. There were several threats on their lives. At one point, they were working with kind of our song and sword. They were working with a sword in one hand and a trowel fixing the wall in the other. This kind of two-handed ministry of building and then defending. And so we don't know exactly what they had in mind, but he knew that they had harm in mind. So his response was, no, I don't have time for a distraction. I don't have time for talks. I don't have time for criticisms. I don't have time for negative. What I'm doing right now is doing the work of God. I love this. I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. Guys, here's what I believe. Most of us will never build a wall like Nehemiah. Most of us will probably never have the opportunity to do something so great and so big for God that it's something that would be mentioned in the scriptures. But I believe that God's called each of us to a work. In fact, Ephesians 2:10 says that God prepared works in advance for us to do. So here's the question for you today and this Thursday. Are you focused on the good work that God has called you to? Maybe it's being a parent. Maybe it's being a boss or a coworker or a fellow student or a fellow teammate. Maybe it's your neighborhood. Maybe it's your church. What is the good work that God's calling you today? Don't be distracted from that. And don't allow naysayers. There's always enemies of people doing good work. There are always people who want to criticize people who are doing good work. There are people who have opinions about people who are doing good work. And there are people who will try to stop people who are doing good works. But here's what Nehemiah says, and I want you to carry this through this day. From Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 4. I cannot come down. I am doing a great work today in God's name. May God multiply the works of his people today millions of times over, so that the good works of God can point people to his son, Jesus Christ. Good works today. Don't be distracted. God bless you guys.